America's music machines became living loud over your passion, your emotion, your existence. Outdoors or on the open road, your sound is Kicker.
I'm Steve Irby. I'm the president and the founder of Kicker. Back in high school, I was playing in a rock and roll band and needed a bigger speaker for my keyboard. And I went to my dad and asked him for $300. I remember the newspaper kind of dropped and he says, "Is that something that we could build?" 2 or 3 days later, he came home with a book on audio and it had plans for building speakers. We built a speaker enclosure and put an amp on it, and I played my keyboard through it, and it sounded really good. I graduated from college and went to grad school. I began to realize I don't want to be a sociologist, and decided that I was going to drop out of grad school and start a speaker company. I had about $12,000 that I had inherited from my grandparents. It seemed to make sense to use it to start a business. And so we bought woodworking tools, we bought plywood, and we got plans from the Alltech Lansing company for building these big voice of the theater speakers that a lot of bands used. We started building those in the garage and just selling them to local bands. In 1980, a friend of mine contacted me and said that he had started a music store in Canton, Oklahoma, and there was a lot of guys that drove pickup trucks. I designed a speaker that fit just in the little wedge shape behind a seat in a single cab pickup truck and sent it over to him. And he called me back a few days later and, the guys love this speaker, we need more. And you know what they call it? And I go, no, what do they call it? And he goes, well, they call it the ass kicker. Back in the early 2000s, we got involved primarily in motocross. We were looking for ways to market our product. We began using the tagline, "Living Loud," and so motocross went right along with that. Arena cross was a natural fit for us, wanting to live loud with motorcycles and the people that enjoy watching that type of events. We're very excited to be involved with arena cross and where it's going today.
Kicker Performance Audio. For almost 50 years, we've been rocking the planet with our world-class product covering everything that drives you, whether in your car, truck, boat, motorcycle, side-by-side, or even on your head. Kicker Performance Audio's passion for bringing you your favorite music like you've never heard it before is what drives us. So wherever you need us, Kicker Performance Audio will be there for you.
Something bad, your hands on the wheel. you got a sexy touch. It's enough to make me and my Chevy blush. So long. Take it all off of that highway. Turn me on. I'll let you drive, babe. You can take it fast as you want to. Girl, little dirty looks damn good on you. Start me up. Stones on the radio. Girl, I love it when you let go. Don't waste your way in the wrong way. Get out on some 4x4 play.
Let's get a, this is great, guys.
We're back again with another Outlaw Armageddon. I'm Big Rob.
Daddy Dave.
I'm Big Mark. Enlighten us a little bit on how you got the name Daddy Dave.
Because back when I raced your car or Wayne's car or anybody else's car, I would beat a lot of people. So, and back then, what was that, 20-some years ago?
Yeah.
It was the big thing of who's your daddy. So Big Chief just automatically said, you're everyone's daddy. So there you go.
I do remember a time that you did beat Chief in my car.
I beat Chief a lot of times in a lot of cars.
Have you ever beat me?
I don't think I've ever raced you.
That's because
something needs to happen.
Well, some people.
Yeah. I mean, anytime.
Well, some
You need to
people
finish
are
that
scared.
S10. Let's make it happen. I said finish the S10.
No, you said you'd make something happen, need to race you.
Well, hold on. I sense that there could possibly be a Who's Your Daddy race.
How'd you get to Oklahoma?
I was born in Longmont, Colorado. And that's, you know, New York's here, Colorado's here, and Oklahoma's kind of in between them. I was actually headed back to Colorado. So I loaded up my toolbox, the clothes I owned, and my dog in a 1980 Monte Carlo. And I was headed for Colorado, and I ran out of money right in Oklahoma City.
And how do you run out of money on a road trip from point A to point B?
Young and dumb, like I thought I could make it.
That's when I met you. It's when you got down here. And your story, which led you to Oklahoma running out of money, has led you to where you are now in life. So I'm thankful that you ran out of money.
It all happens for a reason.
And that was where I was able to meet you, and we literally, between your guts and my mouth, we became instant friends. I think I ran my mouth and you backed up me talking crap, you know.
So you ran your mouth and he had to back it up.
Yes.
Yes.
We still do that.
At that moment in my life, how I got my name Big Mark is I was a much bigger fella, and I still got a big mouth. I was racing, but it was unsafe for me to race. So Dave stepped in and helped me where I could still run my mouth state to state. And we were, you know, it really wasn't anything about the money. We were having fun. And he was operating and making my dream come true. And at the same time, he was having his dream come true and building a dream where, you know, he was getting his name also, you know, and it worked out for both of us, you know.
Why am I sitting here with you fine gentlemen on Mark's birthday?
Birthdays.
How old are you, Mr. Mark
I
Swenson?
am 44 wonderful years old today.
But how old are you, Dave?
Don't try to make it about me.
Hey, I'll call you daddy as old as you are.
Why are we here today?
Talk about Outlaw Armageddon.
I'm gonna call you Dave.
Just call me Dave. It's
Dave.
just straight Dave.
I live loud.
You do?
I live life to the fullest, but I'm also living my life loud. So we're here with some family today, and we wanted to talk about
Outlaw Armageddon number 5.
When is it?
August 2nd and 3rd.
Where is it?
It's in Noble, Oklahoma, in the 405. There's 96 big tire. There's 96 small tire. There's 96 True Street.
That's going to be a big cruise.
Yeah.
We have the largest payouts in the country, bottom line. You are now taking part in your hometown party that's getting ready to go on. And one of the sponsors that we have for the event is yours truly, Daddy Dave.
I own a company, DDR Concepts.
What is DDR Concepts?
DDR Concepts, 2 locations of South Wadley, and we do the F-150 and Mustangs. Wheels, suspension, make them way faster than they should be. We do the Pro Chargers, set up on them, same thing, suspension, wheels, exhaust, tune them all. The truck will come to my shop. We'll do the conversion on it, tune it, do everything, put a safe tune in it so somebody can go out and have fun with it, not blow it up, and not be a big money pit was the whole theory behind the thing.
That's awesome. Outlaw Armageddon. I've been to a lot of racetracks throughout the United States, and Outlaw Armageddon is originally based in the 405, which started the Street Outlaws. It is in their hometown, their home track, where they literally spent their whole lives testing, bracket racing, class racing, testing, whatever they were doing, going out there watching just an event on Friday night or Saturday night. This is their home. It is in their backyard. It was something to do on the weekend while they were waiting on parts to come in or whatever the case was, you know.
When's the dates again? August what?
It's August 2nd and 3rd.
Noble, Oklahoma, Outlaw Armageddon 5.
Number 5.
Big show.
Big deal.
Big deal.
Big payouts.
Festival.
Big festival.
And
it's not a race, it's a festival.
And the best motto for Outlaw Armageddon is often imitated, never duplicated.
Yeah.
See you there. Living loud.
The key technology system comes with a microphone that listens to the speakers in your vehicle. It analyzes each speaker independently, tunes it by providing crossover points, equalization, time delay, and really dials it in and drastically improves the sound quality of your factory stereo system or even aftermarket stereo system. This is a one-time setting. You don't need to leave the microphone in the car, but you do have a button that's integrated into the microphone cable. You can leave that installed, and that gives you a demo switch so that you can go back to your old factory sound and listen to how dreadful it sounded before, and then hit the button again and go back to the Key 180.4 technology. It's got a small footprint, and it's got great thermal management, so you can stuff this thing anywhere and you don't have to worry about the amplifier overheating. You do not have to be an audiophile to install this or appreciate it. This is actually great for the DIY guy because it does everything that the audiophile wants for them with the push of a button. It's an awesome little piece, and it's automatic. You know, nobody's got anything like this built into an amplifier.
for you, Ernie. I toned it down. This is Aaron Malin with the Kicker Tech Force coming to you live from the UnMasked studios. It is Tuesday night, 7:30 Central Time. We do this every Tuesday, so please like and share so that you can be with us every Tuesday. Last week we talked to Mr. Joe Hobart, and we had so much fun, and we didn't cover enough stuff. We're going to bring him back. You guys and girls said, yes, please bring him back, so we're going to have another show with Joe probably in the next couple of months. We'll have to get it scheduled and worked out because Joe is a very busy man, as you can probably imagine. So that was great fun, but tonight we've got not one but two guests. Tonight we're going to have Mr. Ken Bundy, he's also part of the Kicker Tech Force, and Mr. Robert Hi-Fi Vega in the house. Robert made the drive all the way here to Stillwater, Oklahoma, so we're going to show him some love and have a nice time with him here on the stage tonight. But before we get to our special guests, a couple things we got to cover first. First of all, we've got Tim is back in the house. Tim, maybe you can wave at us or wave at me. Woohoo! Tim is now upgraded to Mr. Married Man. He also took our Ford Bronco out to rough country, and he was telling me over dinner tonight that they have already added a 5-inch lift kit, front bumpers, rear bumper, and a winch. There's also going to be some more accessories on it, and this Bronco is going to be in our SEMA booth in Las Vegas coming up in November. Is it November or is it October? I forget when exactly, but coming up. So we're going to be showing that truck off with the help of Rough Country. Of course, they're one of our sponsors in that build. So stay tuned for pictures. Tim said he doesn't have any images to share, so that's okay. Next time we'll definitely have some images of that truck. In addition, we have Sandy back by popular demand. Sandy's in the house because JW is out of the house. JW is at Lake Havasu. Actually, we just got an update from Ken. He's getting the truck, the XRV, cleaned up. So Sandy has taken over his duties here tonight. And apparently, from what I heard over dinner, Sandy's more popular than JW. Is that true? Guys, girls, let us know. Is Sandy more popular than JW? Put it in the chat. We'd like to hear that. Of course, we have Bill Frog. Bill Frog is manning the social for us. And we're going to do another poll, so stay tuned. We're going to do a poll tonight. That worked out really well last week, so we want to get some more involvement from you ladies and gentlemen. And let's see who else is here. Oh, yes, also Hi-Fi Vega brought a special guest with him, but I'll let Robert talk about that. It's not his wife, so don't get too excited. It's not that special. Little less special than the wife. Dinner, we did something different. We did not have Texas Roadhouse. Thanks to Sandy, she said, executive decision, we're having rib crib tonight. If you haven't had rib crib, it's fantastic barbecue. And I think actually they deliver, which is great because the street on which rib crib sits is a freaking nightmare right now. There's a lot of construction going on. They're widening our roads in our nice little town, making it larger and more trafficable, but it makes it a pain in the butt to get there. So hopefully they delivered it to us tonight. So rib crib, fantastic, good stuff. They didn't pay for that, by the way, so that's a free pimp for them. Giveaways. Of course, we've got some giveaways, and still I have not seen any images, photographs of you men and women who have won our Unmasked t-shirts. I haven't seen those t-shirts come through in images, so please stop what you're doing, put on your Unmasked t-shirt, do a selfie, and send it to us tonight during the show. Please do that for us. So giveaways. Ernie, can you pull up my laptop, please? I want to show off our giveaways. First, the Cush NC. Now, tonight, can you do a little picture-in-picture? I want to show off these Cush NCs. I've been talking about these for weeks, but now I can actually show these off. Yeah, there we go. Let me sit back down. So these are the Cush NCs. Super comfortable headset. Put them on like that. Again, they are corded or cordless. They have noise canceling. So if you've got a whiny 4.5-year-old at home like I do, you just put these on and suddenly the 4.5 whiny-year-old is gone. So Cush NC's first place winner. Of course, you also get a koozie. You also get a Kicker Unmasked t-shirt. So that's your first place winner. Second place, you get the Kicker koozie and the Tabor 2 wireless headphones. Big difference. Tabor 2s do not have the noise canceling technology, but you still get a t-shirt and the koozie. So that's fantastic. Third place, EB400s. These are wireless in-the-ear earbuds. They're also watertight, so you can sweat in these, you can jog, you can wash the car, you can go swimming. Of course, Bluetooth doesn't work through the water, so that's not really super helpful, but maybe you're splashing around in the pool like I do. And then, of course, you also get the koozie and the t-shirt. And what do I want? I want pictures of you in the t-shirt sent to us, please. So that's what we're giving away tonight. No alternators tonight. We've already did that. But I have heard that in our upcoming show or two, we're going to give away another big prize. So stay tuned for that. So that's what we're giving away. Let's talk about some events. As I mentioned, JW is not here because JW is hanging out in Lake Havasu. He arrived, I think, yesterday or this morning perhaps. But the Storm Poker Runs, again, that's one of the main events of Lake Havasu. And so that's where our guys and girls are. Our marketing team is out there. Mr. John Myers is out there. As I said, John went out there to work on a couple of boats. This is one of the boats that he'll be fine-tuning. It seems like every year, every 6 months maybe, somebody out there in Havasu is upgrading their boat, putting more kicker stuff or different kicker stuff or more and different kicker stuff. And so John is going out to do some fine-tuning on some of those boats. So again, if you're in that area, if you're in Arizona or maybe in the Vegas area, and you want to check out an amazing event, head over to Lake Havasu and you'll have an awesome time. So check that out. And of course, say hi to the guys and girls out there from Kicker 2. They would love to see you. The Skills USA event we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. So, I jumped ahead, sorry. The Skills USA event, last week, Mr. Scott Dilbeck was watching the show and he reached out to Bill and said, hey, Bill, I'm familiar with Skills USA. I'm in the Atlanta area and I'd like to get involved. So he and I connected today. I connected him with Chris Jack, and Chris Jack is the man who runs the contest for mobile audio for Skills USA in Atlanta. So we've already got some momentum with some industry guys and girls getting more involved with Skills USA. So if you're even remotely curious, please go to their website, check them out, and see how you can get involved. Maybe as a mentor, maybe as a student, or something in between. We can always use more people involved in the industry. So please check out Skills USA. Now we want to show some more events that are coming up. We have got, of course, tonight's show with Mr. Hi-Fi Vega. On the 28th, April 28th, we've got Southeast Mini Truckin' Nationals presented by Bell's Rod Shop. If you haven't been to a mini truckin' event, think back to the late 80s, early 90s. Mini truckin' just exploded, massively popular. Then it kind of went away for a few years, but now it is back and it's huge again. So check out this event. You'll have a great time. That's in Maggie Valley, North Carolina. We also have a flat track event, American Flat Track, coming up at the I-70 Motorsports Park. That's, is that Kansas City? Is that Kansas City? Does anybody know? No? Nobody here is sure on that, but check out the half-mile event. That's the I-70 Motorsports Park. Great events. As John Myers said, one of the loudest things he's ever done, and John Myers has done a lot of really loud stuff. So that's pretty impressive if it shakes John Myers to his core. We also have some more Base Wars events coming up. Time to Shine, April 30th at noon in Sioux City, Nebraska. What? Is that right, Nebraska? Wow, that's cool. So up there in Nebraska, Base Wars event, and then Ultimate Audio and Fabrication on May 6th. So more Base Wars events to check out. Please get involved with Base Wars. Even if you're not competing, just go to support the guys and girls that are doing it. Maybe learn a couple things, and maybe you'll get inspired to do your own event. So check out those events that are coming up.
The American Flat Track's in Odessa, Missouri.
Odessa, Missouri. Thank you, Tim. Odessa, Missouri is the flat track event. So that's actually not too far from here. Probably, what, a 6-hour drive maybe. So that's a great event to check out. Lauren won't be there because Lauren's in Havasu supporting the Havasu event. So you'll have to check out that event without seeing Lauren. Sorry about that. Lauren's a fantastic dude. Moving on, let's have our 3 picks of the week. So we like to share some images. No, that's not it. Some images that we have stumbled across, some pretty cool builds. We're going to start with AJ Rivera. Check out this build. Now, if I'm not mistaken, these are an older generation of KS coax speakers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 KS coax speakers per door. Plus looks like an L7-8 for mid-bass. That's a very solid mid-bass. And then of course in the A-pillar, it looks like maybe a 5 1/4 inch up there in the A-pillar. So talk about living loud. AJ, you are absolutely living loud. Thanks for that awesome build. Next up, check this out. This is Anthony Aho. 2 Warhorse amplifiers in this build. I wish I could zoom. Maybe can I? A-ho? Sorry, sorry, A-ho. I'm going to try and zoom in because this is a cool build. Check this out. 2 Warhorse amplifiers. It looks like he had a custom plexiglass shield built for one of these amplifiers to show off the inside. Just gorgeous on the inside of this amplifier. And somebody said, hey, that looks like a bunch of 6-packs of beer. It is not beer 6-packs. Those are absolutely capacitors. And then down here you've got what looks like an older KX7 maybe crossover. So probably using it as a line driver. So that's a pretty cool build. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. And last tonight, where's my little move over arrow? I don't have my move over to the right arrow. Come on. Zoom back out. Thank you, Tim. Right, there we go. Zoom out. Still learning how to use the computer. Here we go. Our third image, this is from Derek Sylvester. Check this out. Now, what inspired us about this, we were looking at these yesterday, and we jumped up and said, hey, this looks like the 1980s all over again. This is a very 80s looking build. Of course, these subwoofers are much newer than the 80s, but if you check out the way the splattered paint look, it's got some neon. I'm thinking like Miami Vice, maybe some Miami Vice Jan Hammer music in the background. I'm guessing these are 12s, looks like 4 12s, but a cool, cool build. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see he's got this little plaque here. It looks like it reads Buddha Acoustics. Buddha Acoustics. I don't know if that's the name of his shop, or maybe that's his life philosophy, not really sure, but that's pretty cool. So thank you, Derek, for that cool build. We love the kicker love. And now we're going to show you some, please do not do this. What not to do in your installs. Now, this actually reminds me several years ago when we first launched the HS8 Hideaway under-the-seat loaded subwoofer enclosure. 8-inch woofer in a small enclosure with a 150-watt amplifier on board. We actually devised a demo kit. And the demo kit, the idea was you could go to a retailer, and if you wanted to experience the HS8 in your ride right there in the parking lot or in the shop, they could simply put this HS8 in your car, maybe in the hatch, maybe beneath the seat, wherever it would fit. And then they had power and ground that just clipped onto your battery. So you could get instant power and ground with these clip-on clamps, and then use an FM modulator so it would play whatever bass from the music you're listening to. So it was a great in-the-car demonstration. But we used those quick clip-on so we could give you power and ground real easily. Now this is probably not what that guy had in mind, so hopefully this is no one who's watching us tonight. But so not a good idea to do this, so please just know. The next one we pulled up today, I'm going to give you a minute to look at this. Put in the chat what you think is going on here and why this is not going to work. I'm just going to give you a couple seconds to look at it. Look real close and see why is this not going to work. So, okay, so that's enough time. See this here, this little plastic tab? So they did not remove the little shipping plastic protectors before they put on the battery post clamp. So yeah, there's going to be no current flowing through this installation. So there you go, there's your challenge. And the third and final, what not to do. So they definitely put in the fuses, and then they probably blew some fuses and thought, hey, you know what? I'm going to up the amperage a bit, so I'm just going to wrap some speaker wire around these fuses, and hey, I'm going to fix that problem. So yeah, please don't do that in your install. At least you're committed to something, right? So that's what not to do. Now we want to talk about some tech paper or some tech questions that we get pulled in. So let me find the correct, tech questions. Now for the tech questions, I'm going to get Mr. Ken Bundy. Ken, can you come on in here? Ernie, can you turn off my laptop, please? I'm going to bring Ken in here.
Jog on in, yeah.
Thank you, Ken, for coming on. Everybody knows Mr. Ken Bundy, right? So,
yes, sir.
Ken is going to be.
What's up, everyone?
Ken is going to answer our couple of tech questions today.
I'll try to.
Oh, you know you can do it. Come on. I didn't pull anything too hard.
All right.
So Ken, the first question is, I'm getting ready to install a Key 200.4 in a 2015 Chevy Equinox.
Okay.
Very common vehicle.
Sure.
Actually, isn't that what
Carlos
is? His a
Yeah, I think
2016?
pretty darn close.
Pretty close, okay. He's going to do bi-amp mode. Thank you, bi-amp mode. Real quick, bi-amp mode means 2 amp channels are going to power the tweeters, 2 amp channels are going to power the mid-range, and this gives you all of what the Key can do for you. So he's going to do it in bi-amp mode with no rear speakers at all.
Okay.
Here's the question. Should I run RCA cables to both front and rear, or amp 1, amp 2 inputs of the Key, or can I just use one set of inputs? Also, should the fader switch be set on or off?
Well, the answer is you can run just front inputs and then fader off. So fader off is going to be what I'd recommend, and then just run those 2 channels in. You only need front, left, and right because that's all you're really using with bi-amp mode. But when you have fader off, that means you're going to get all 4 channels of audio out. So you just use the 2 channels in, and you'll get 4 channels out with with fader off.
Ernie, real quick, can you pull up my laptop again? I got to keep you awake. So we talk about the Key amplifier quite a bit, so I wanted to show you guys and girls what we're talking about. So all these dip switches, now obviously this has been enlarged massively because this amplifier is really
Not to
tiny.
scale.
And pick that up, bro. So if you've got eyes that are older than 25 years old, then you can't even see the end panel controls on this. So we always take pictures with our phone so we can zoom in, and then we set the dip switches accordingly. So that's why this picture is zoomed in. But what we're talking about here for fader, this right here, fader control over here. So with the fader in the on position, the amplifier has to see front and rear input signal.
Exactly.
If you turn the fader off, then you don't need front and rear, just front.
Right. The easy way to remember that is people know what fader does in your head unit, right? So as you fade the audio front and rear, so if you turn that ability off, you can't fade front or rear. So that's how I personally remember it.
Yeah.
Whether, which on or off, what that does. So when you have fader on, you have the fader ability.
All kicker amplifiers, all multi-channel amplifiers have a fader on-off switch.
They do.
And many, many, many times we've gotten phone calls or emails, hey, what's the fader switch do? How do I use it? I'm not getting enough input or whatever. That fader switch is just, it's so simple, but it confuses a lot of folks.
It does.
Okay, so the next question I want to throw up to you, Ken.
All right.
Is I recently purchased and installed a Key 204 amplifier.
Another key question.
I have no bottom end, no bass. I did before the install of the amplifier. Now it's mostly tweeter, mid-range tweeter. I have the treble and the mid turned all the way down, and the tweeters are way overpowering the rest of the sound. I'm at a loss to correct this. I downloaded the pink noise from kicker.com, did the auto-tune setup, got the happy tones, so at least he did the setup correct.
Yep, completed correct.
The system is not in bi-amp, so he's running it 4-channel, front, rear, 4-channel. And what could be the problem? What do you think?
There's a couple of different things. Number one is, I wonder if he replaced any of his factory speakers with aftermarket. And then, of course, how well that fits in the car. So sometimes those factory speakers, they're custom fit to that door panel. And then you go and you slap in a random player 6.5, whether they're kicker, another brand, whatever it is, and you don't have that same fitment that you did with that OEM speaker. So that could be a good reason why you lose a lot of your mid bass. So let's for this question, let's assume that they were the exact same speakers on the factory speakers or whatever speakers you had in there before. So I tend to look at the high pass filter settings. The in panel that Aaron just showed you, the 2 right dip switches are your high pass filter, and that will block bass to those door speakers, to those mid-range speakers. It goes all the way up to 120 hertz.
Yes.
So if by chance he has it set, yeah, there you go. If by chance he has it set in that orientation there where you can see is 120 hertz, it's going to filter frequencies 120 hertz and lower out of those mid-range speakers, which is a lot of your bass and even mid-bass frequencies.
Yeah.
And then he said the tweeters are super hot. So if he's got separate tweeters and everything else, my guess, it sounds like he does have aftermarket speakers in there, so maybe it is option 1 of what I just explained. You know, he doesn't really have a great seal in there, and he's losing mid-bass because they're not really installed 100%. Other option could be the tweeter attenuation or
Oh,
it looks
yeah.
like boosting on our CS speakers.
Yeah.
Has a little switch on the side of the crossover that says +3. So for example, if you install the component set, wire your tweeters and your woofers to that crossover box, the external crossover box, you move a little toggle switch, +3, +6, whatever your particular crossover goes up to. So if you've got that all the way jacked up and you've got high pass crossover on the door woofers, you're going to get a symptom like he's saying.
Ton of mid-range. Something else that popped into my head while you're talking, Ken, is out of phase. Door speakers being out of phase.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
You get no mid-bass at all if your door speakers are out of phase with one another. So,
so there's 3 different things that you could look into for that.
Okay, so the third option, this actually came off of Facebook, so I'm going to pop this up on Facebook real quick.
So I know this question he's going to ask. Those of you guys that are on the Kicker Club on the Facebook group, if you're not, get over there and get on the Kicker Club Facebook group. You see that I answered that question, but I just thought that this was a great question to bring up in the show, and we'll go over it why.
Yeah, Ken came into my cubicle and he said, Aaron, let me run this by you. And I'm like, oh, dude, I got to think about that for a minute. So, and it's really a simple answer, but it does make you think.
All right, you don't have to call out his name or anything?
No, I won't do that.
Okay.
So this gentleman says, so he's got a dumb question. It's not a dumb question.
Not at all.
Thank you for saying it, but it's not a dumb question. I think I already know the answer. He's got a CXA 1801 amplifier, and he used a scope to set up his head unit, and he knows that his head unit is not clipping at the 3/4 volume mark. So he's got a clean high voltage signal going into the amplifier. He was running it at 2 ohms. Now he's upgraded to subwoofers, but he's at a 1 ohm load. Now the CXA 1801 is 1 ohm stable, but it makes the same power plus or minus 10%.
Yeah.
So the power's not really changing. Now we're assuming the subwoofers handle the exact same power. His question is, do I need to go through and adjust my gains? Do I need to adjust my gains with my 1 ohm setup?
Right. So he had a setup he already loved. It had a 2 ohm load, changed the subwoofers out for whatever reason, maybe got different ones, whatever it is, but now it's a 1 ohm load. Our amplifier is stable to 1 ohm. It does put out the same power whether it's a 1 ohm or 2 ohm load, but for purposes of this question, that really doesn't matter. The question is, does he have to reset gains now that he's running at a 1 ohm load instead of that 2 ohm load that he had been running previously? So what do you guys think? Put it in the chat box. Does he have to reset gain or not? The answer is he does not. So folks, if you don't understand how gain works, it's really just an input matching device. Use it to match the input voltage from your source unit. So he hasn't changed the source unit. That head unit still clips at the same point that he already tested previously. Even though you're reducing the load on the amplifier from 2 ohm to 1 ohm, that does not change what the gain setting needs to be. The amplifier is not going to clip at a premature time, even though he hasn't adjusted gain. So think about that question for a little bit. It helps kind of explain how gain works. If you're maybe not 100% on how gain actually functions, that's a great question to help explain that.
If you have questions, you can always send those to us 24 hours a day at support@kicker.com. Drop us emails. We've got 4 guys up there that are experts at helping you out. Last time I asked them, between 80 and 90 contacts per day per guy. So phone calls and emails, 80 per guy per day.
That's hundreds every single day.
Yes.
And I'm sure when they get here Monday morning, it is out of control.
It's out of control.
Unfortunately, it's not open Saturday, Sunday. But yeah, when they get here Monday, they probably go to work.
And thank you, Jacob Lucky. He's one of our tech support guys. He calls through a bunch of his that he gets, and he provides those questions for us. So thank you, Jacob, for doing that. Appreciate that. So that's where you send your questions to us. Like and subscribe. If you like the show, like and subscribe. If you don't like it, still like and subscribe because, hey, it helps us out. No, I'm just kidding. If you don't like it, just don't watch. Right? But now, we're going to bring on our very special guest. He's in the green room. He's getting acupuncture. Get the needles out of your eyebrows, dude. Okay, cool. Come on in, Mr. Hi-Fi Vega. The crowd goes wild. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
You're clapping at home, right? I can't hear you, but I'm
so.
sure they're clapping at home.
Or booing, one or the other.
There's no booing. There's no booing. None. So thank you for being here. Making
It's your boy. It's your boy. Hi-Fi Vega. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, man.
And I alluded to your special guest. Who's your special guest?
My future son-in-law, back in the back, hanging out. He didn't want to be on camera. He's trying to hide back there. But Matt McCutcheon, back there hiding.
Ernie, make that back camera on.
Yeah, turn that on real quick. Future son-in-law. I didn't catch that.
Oh, he's back there.
There he is.
What's up, Matt?
Future son-in-law. So
Yes.
no, we got to spend a minute on this. So he's marrying into your family.
Yes, eventually. My daughter's got to get through college before we talk about all the
Good.
marriage stuff. But once they're through college, yes.
But you've already given him the acceptance.
Yes, he's a good
Okay,
kid.
That's great. Is he 16 yet? He looks about 16.
Oh man, he's almost 21.
Oh my gosh.
The older you get, the younger kids
Other
look.
people look, yeah,
Yes.
for sure. Younger kids look,
So
100%.
true. Oh Lord. Wow. Well, so I probably know the least about you of our entire audience because you're a star, dude. You're a star in our industry.
Just an enthusiast.
Well, you're a little more than you're very modest too, which is nice. But for my edification and some of the guys and girls that don't actually know you, give us a little bit of your history. How did you get to where you are today?
So it's all Big D Wiz, Derek Wilson's fault.
It's all his fault.
It's 100% his fault. I've just been into car audio forever since I was probably like 13, 14 years old. Was thinking about car audio, got the car. I love cars, so got the car, got the audio.
What kind of car?
So my very first car
Yeah.
was a Chevy Celebrity station wagon. It was my mom's car.
Yes.
And I had a system in there. I had a crunch. It was kind of like a kicker box. I had the piezo's up top, CR10s in there,
Okay.
prefab wired into the factory back rear lifting hatch. So I had to run the wires around this side. So when we lifted the hatch, we'd go to the lake and put the crunch box back with the
turn it
piezos off the factory radio.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. Well, I was in a break as I had kids. You get out of audio, start to get back in audio, and I pick up a Kicker XS 50 amp.
XS, okay.
And I said, well, I was cheater amps. I love cheater amps. I used to compete. So I'm thinking, I wonder how much power this puts out. I wonder if anyone's done any videos on this. Well, nobody had done a video on that one.
Okay.
But I seen Derek's ZR1000 video. And then that blew up into me getting on the Facebook group, me going to the old school stereo meet, meeting Derek, forced him to become my best friend. And then this is all part of the master plan. And then slowly but surely, he kind of talks me into doing a YouTube channel because I was doing like comparison between 10s just on the Facebook group.
Okay.
He's like, oh, you should put this in video, man. This would be great. So my nonsense is all Derek's fault. So.
Thank you, Derek.
Oh, man. And now Dean only perpetuates it. So it's also now partly Dean's fault. So he's got 30% now on him.
So you've got
Misery loves company.
Right.
That's what we're trying to say.
You've got some big guys in your pockets. I mean, the names you just dropped, like, whoa, man, come on, really?
Yeah, those are my guys, man. Those are my guys.
Those are your boys.
Yeah, they're my boys. They're my boys. See, this is the plan. I hope to do this to you guys too. I slowly creep in, then I make you be my best friend.
Well, you are kind of likable, so I could see that happening.
Yeah, I got no problems with that. You're welcome anytime.
You did drive yourself out here.
Yeah,
I mean,
drove out.
that's what friends do.
Drove
they make
here?
effort.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They make
Absolutely.
effort to go places and hang out. So that's
anytime, man.
awesome.
Yeah. Always
So,
welcome.
Now, and I asked you this at dinner because I genuinely didn't know. So YouTube's not your day job.
No, absolutely.
I mean, you're not Miley Cyrus yet. You can't because you're not beautiful like Miley Cyrus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not coming in like a wrecking ball. I do come in like a wrecking ball, but not enough to make the big money.
Different wrecking ball.
Right. Yeah.
And please don't wear the outfit.
Yeah.
So what is your day job? What pays the bills?
So since 2002, I've been working for a company that's changed names several times. It's now Stratton Energy. We make batteries for industrial, like network power, forklifts. We started doing some lithium now, but
So
up
what's
into
the
that
brand that people would recognize? Is there a name that can you say it, or is it not
it'd
allowed
be
anymore?
GNB batteries or Exide batteries.
So Exide is what I
Huge.
recognize. Yeah. If you guys have been in batteries at all, Exide.
Yeah, and it's always the big ones. The only ones we mess with are very big. A 2 volt cell. Some of them are this big. So
forklifts, things like that.
Yeah, forklifts and network power.
Network power. So when you say network power, like what would be an example of a network?
So like when AT&T, when the power goes out.
Yeah.
Right there. Also solar power.
Oh, okay. So you do backup for solar power. So when the sun's not shining, your batteries are shining.
Yep, the batteries are going.
Okay, so that gives you a ton of credibility when it comes to current draw.
Oh yeah,
because you know a lot about DC current.
Yeah, we've been messing with it for a long time.
So now, actually, Ken, you were in the Navy. I've heard stories of
different lifetime. It's been 17 years. I got it in 2006.
A lot of years.
Yeah, January 2006.
Now, I know you weren't on submarines, but I've heard that submarines are powered by batteries.
Our batteries.
Our batteries. Your batteries.
I missed, so I left 4 hours early to be here.
Okay.
I missed the Navy audit, and I'm off tomorrow as well. So I missed the Navy audit. What? Sorry, guys that work in the QA department. I dished out on you. Got to survive the Navy audit without me. But
that's big.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys' hard work to allowing him to be here with us tonight.
Yeah. Well, so my question was, I've heard that those massive banks of batteries, when you throw the switch between them, there can be huge arcs and like balls of lightning or electricity. What is that?
Well, it's like turn on pop with the amp, you know, when you're hooking it up. So there is so much current and power in those batteries. Even though they're AGM batteries, they're not lithium batteries. We use 600 MCM cable. I don't know if you've ever seen that size cable.
No, we don't use it in car audio.
Yeah, and
that's like power company size.
Exactly. You could literally murder somebody with this cable. That's how big it is. If you got a piece off,
it's like a boa constrictor cone.
There's just so much current stored up in there that there's almost no way to turn them on sometimes without a little bit of pop.
So when you pop it, so we're talking sparks, or we're talking like a ball of lightning?
I haven't seen the ball. I've seen some sparks, yes.
Okay.
We don't have any where we're at because we have very controlled bitrodes. We do float match and all this kind of stuff. So it's not
That's new
crazy.
Age technology.
Right.
You're not
but
20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago.
There's often times where a loose bolt didn't get torqued correctly. And then you see a red button, similar to this one right here.
Okay.
And that's that bolt fixing to burn the battery all the way to the
Wow. And that's very bad.
That's very bad.
Very bad.
Very bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you're trying to say is this guy knows what he's talking about when it comes to batteries, car audio stuff.
Sorry, I was geeking out on the battery.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Ask Us Anything. Bill, do we have some questions for Ask Us Anything? I kind of went down a rabbit hole already. So let's throw up some questions.
I don't think they make CCA in 600 MCM.
Copperclad.
So maybe we should talk about some copperclad.
Absolutely.
So you are on record, right, as saying copperclad is better than OFC.
I have a video. It's titled "Why CCA is Better Than OFC," and you should watch it. And you should watch the video, and don't listen to the words I'm saying.
So
watch the video.
Don't be the guy that reads the title and then makes comments.
Yeah, I mean I'm that guy too. So I don't blame you too much, but yeah.
So tell us about this video, because this is one of the things that kind of made you famous.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that video.
So here's the thing. I like jokes, but I don't always finish them right. So my idea, and I told this to Derek, he's like, yeah, sounds like a good idea. I don't think no one's going to get it. And listen, Derek was right. Let's just get it up right. So I was like, I will have a video. I'm going to troll people. I'm going to say CCA is better than OFC. But the whole video, every test, I'm showing you that OFC is in fact better than CCA. And people didn't get the joke. I would say about 30%.
By definition, like just 100%, you were going to just anger people. And
I played myself is what happened.
Well, mission accomplished. I think you did anger some people. And anyway, so before this question goes away, it says, can you use a key amp before KXMA to get the DSP functions added to your KXMA, since the KXMA have high power inputs? Or could you pair 2 key amps to an 8-channel KXMA? The answer is absolutely. Of course you could. So what that user, just to break it down, the key amplifier has DSP built into it. It's a phenomenal piece. We've talked about it at the beginning of the show a little bit. So if you guys haven't checked out the Key 200.4, make sure you go ahead and do that. So let's say you use the key amp, you love it, but now you want more power.
Yeah.
You know, it does 50 watts, a true 50 watts RMS by 4. But let's say that's not enough for you. Maybe you've got 2 pair of speakers in each door panel or something crazy, and you need a larger amplifier. Maybe a KXMA 800.4 or something like that, so much, much larger. But you're used to all those DSP functions. So you can just now run the output of that key amplifier directly into the RCA inputs of the KXMA 800.4 or whatever amplifier it happens to be. So you'll get much more power out of that KXMA amplifier, but you still have all those same DSP functions that you've grown to love over the time you've had it.
Would you have to rerun the DSP setup if you did that?
Nope. As long as you don't change any of the speaker positionings or anything like that, the speaker positionings are still same distance from the listener. Even the key amplifier does do level matching, so left to right. But again, nothing's changed in it. It's just everything is now equally louder. The only time I could see maybe something is if you had more power going to the front than the rear or something, because you adjusted the gains on KMXA and you've turned the gains on the rears maybe way down or something like that. But in general, the answer is no.
I learned something today. I'm on record as having the Kicker Key 204 as being my favorite 4-channel amp you could buy right now.
Thank you.
I did not know that.
Yep.
I did not know that.
Yep, so you can certainly run it right into our amplifiers, and then that includes CXA. I mean, he specifically called out KXMA, and then I called out the KXMA 804, but CXA accepts up to 40 volts or 400 watts RMS per RCA input in there. So you can, of course, run the key amplifier directly into a CXA 360.4 or something like that.
Now, there's another part of this question, excuse me, that's kind of interesting. He mentions, can 2 key amplifiers... We should probably key on this, pun intended, for just a second.
Oh, you guys with the puns, man. You and John. Oh, my gosh. You guys with the puns. So, yeah, I mean, you can certainly run... So the KXMA 800.8 is an 8-channel amplifier. The key amplifiers are 4-channel amplifiers. So could you run, 2 sets of 4 into an 8-channel amp? And, of course, you could. I guess the reason he brings it up is using multiple key amplifiers in the same vehicle. And yes, you can. You do have to run the setup independently of each other and make sure that any speaker not connected to the amp you're currently testing is quiet for that test. So there are not too many setups that we get that would really play out, but it is a possibility.
Well, would it be, so if you had rear speakers and you're doing the key in the back,
sure,
will it bring that forward? And how would that overlap with one that you already had?
So it's going to set time correction off those, so it would delay time correction off it. And it really kind of depends on what your setup is. And, and that really kind of gets deep into it, is what speaker you have on which channel on the key amplifier to let it figure out what it is. It a possibility? Yes. You do have to be careful about which speaker you're wiring to which input and output on the key amplifier. So plan it out a little bit. It is possible.
When I worked retail in Colorado in a different lifetime, like Ken said, we had a demo car, Ford Taurus, 4-door Ford Taurus in our store, and it had front stage and then it had rear front stage. So if you're sitting in the front of the car, you had front stage. If you're sitting in the back seat, you also had front stage.
Wow.
It was set up for 4 people to enjoy the experience. And now this is, I'm not going to tell you when.
I was going to say, I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, isn't this long before DSP existed?
We didn't have wicked, and actually Ernie says this, DSP is not a replacement for proper install. So proper install first, then put DSP on top of that. 100%. Because DSP can help, but it can't fix a really bad install. So this is before DSP, as we already said. But I was thinking about this key question. If you had a scenario where you had rear seat and you wanted a true stage, you could actually run a key in the rear as a front setup, but put the microphone on the rear.
Middle.
Right, so you can play a little magic with it.
Yeah, you could.
Where you put the microphone, and like I said, which speakers you wire to which channels. So the simple answer to this huge question on there is yes and yes. Moving on.
Okay, next question, please. What's our next?
You guys really need to get Dean. He's got so many Kicker Key hacks, and he showed me quite a few of them when he was down. You got to get him on here. And
so
he's
I wish he would throw those out there, because we love key hacks, and the key amplifier is a very capable amplifier.
So Chevy Cobalt Racer, I'm back in the bass game. Welcome back, buddy.
Nice
So are we. My 2020 Kia Optima factory radio is good for adding a sub.
It's not good.
Sorry, thank you. Not good for adding a sub. It's the old man eyes. What should I use to get the output of the bass I need? I'm using a KX 800.1 and a 12-inch Kicker L7, and I think we've got...
We do.
Right here.
Right here. Yeah, here it is.
Show them that.
This is going to be the Key LOC, and this is going to be what I'd recommend for that particular installation. So the Key LOC basically corrects whatever factory signal might have wrong with it. So maybe that's bass roll-off, maybe that's just poor EQ all over, time correction, all pass filters, all kinds of craziness that these factories put into those factory sound systems, either whether it's factory amplified or not. And so it will fix all that. So not only the bass, but all the way up, actually. So from 20 hertz all the way to 20 kilohertz. The whole range of human hearing. It'll fix that for you. So that'd be what I'd recommend. Go ahead and run it through its auto setup process. It takes about 5 to 7 minutes, and it should restore all of that bass. And then you'll have regular RCA output. So you just run that into that KXA 800.1. You'll be good to go.
What's the voltage output on that?
So the voltage on the RCA output is up to 10 volts.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
yeah,
a lot. That's
no
good.
problems with that, and it'll accept up to 40 volts from the factory input. So even if you had, let's say the Kia Optima had a factory 8-inch sub that had a true, I don't know, 200 or 300 watts RMS to it, you could just tap into those wires and wire it directly into the key lock, and no need to like buffer down that 200 or 300 watts. Just run that right into the key lock. It's made to take that abuse, and you'll get, like I said, up to 10 volts out. You can adjust the output voltage with the input and output gains here. So the output gain is what you'd use to adjust the RCA output voltage to whatever amplifier you have connected. With the KX 800.1, crank it all the way up. Don't worry about it.
Well, that's one thing we've learned about Kicker products with Unmasked. They're meant for abuse. Yes. A lot of people didn't know until you guys started abusing the heck out of them on Unmasked.
I think we need to do that more often.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is that? Mythbusters, how they like recreate the myth, and then they try and take it to 11, and then like, what does it take to really blow something up here? So maybe we need to do that, is really torture test our stuff, and then, you know what, where does it fail? Let's bring the fire extinguisher in here and let's get real.
Robert, have you played with one of these yet?
I've got a key lock. I haven't had opportunity to hook it up yet because I got the key, so there was no need for me to do the key lock.
Oh, actually, thanks for bringing that up, because you can actually use a key LOC in front of a key lock, or a key 404, 200,
Right.
204. Man, I can't get the model numbers.
Sure.
In fact, Ken, was there just an install we were talking about? You and I had this conversation just recently.
We did.
Was there? Maybe it was John and I, but anyway.
So it is common to use 2 key locks in a vehicle. Is that ultimately what you're trying to get to?
No, because we had, maybe it was last week. We had a question. Yeah, it was last week. Sorry, I've slept since then. So the question was, if I'm going to use a key 200.4 amplifier, do I need a key LOC? And you can, in fact, use a key LOC, and there's some instances when you should use it with an OE interface.
For sure. All pass filters would be the number one reason where you would probably want to use a key LOC in front of a key 200.4. So it'll fix the all pass filters that the factory's put in there, and then the key 200.4 can do its magic.
Yeah.
And for those of you watching that are really familiar with all pass filters, time correction, etc., if you want to keep those factory all-pass filters, there is capability in the key LOC to turn off that function. So you go ahead and run through the auto setup process, and you say, hey, I want the factory time correction. I just want you to correct the EQ. That's fine. You can let it correct just the EQ, and then say, hey, give me factory time correction. Let that slide by. Same with the all-pass.
Yeah.
So you can go ahead and undefeat the factory all-pass filter, and so you'd be left with factory time correction. You'd be left with factory all-pass filters, and it would just fix the EQ portion if you choose.
Yeah. And that's the only time you'd have to, because the key can do everything but the all-pass filters, pretty much.
So it can't undo factory time correction. It can't even actually read it. It would just try and add time correction on top of it, and it would kind of screw it up, honestly. So for those of you that are using the key 200.4 in a factory system that does have factory time correction, you don't have the key lock, that dip switch on the end, remember that huge in-panel picture Aaron showed you? There's a dip switch for time correction defeat. So you need to flip that to the defeat position. You'd be left with just factory time correction. You should have back to center stage. So the key 200.4, to answer your question directly, the key 200.4 cannot measure factory time correction and doesn't fix factory time correction. Hopefully the factory's done it right and it sounds great, and you're left with
it just
factory.
tries to fix whatever's there.
Right. So the key lock itself actually fixes everything there. So this is truly the one-stop shop to basically fix stuff that you might not know. Maybe, I don't know if I have factory time or all pass. So what is he even talking about? It doesn't matter. Hook up your factory signal into this. It'll fix everything. It'll leave you with flat 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz with no time correction, and you can plug in whatever amp you want. Do your own DSP after that, whatever you want.
Right. I'm giving you guys a free idea here.
Okay, take it.
Put that Kicker Key software in that right there.
We got
and then you add whatever you add.
We got a little something for you.
Did you tour R&D today?
Not today, but I've been.
Okay. So you probably didn't. Well, then you didn't see stuff you can't talk about. But there's.
I've seen nothing.
COVID put a lot of stuff on delay, and as Joe talked about last week, one of the big things that we had to do the last couple of years is take existing amplifiers and make them work with the chips we could get at any price.
That's true.
So we've basically got like a CX800 one. There might be 4 versions of it with 4 different chipsets in it, and they all work exactly the same, but they have different chipsets. So
to base off what Aaron's talking about, he's talking about just chip shortages. So not even product shortage, but a whole amp shortage. We're talking about the pieces to make those amplifiers. And there's a saying that Charlie Fox actually used to say. He says, an engineer can make one of anything. It's different when you're trying to make 20,000 of that thing and they all work great. And then we have some other people that, smaller companies are actually shipping out amplifiers, and I can order 1 amp from them and I can get it in a month. How come Kicker is having problems with X, Y, and Z? Well, because you're only ordering 10 or 20 amplifiers as a brand, or 100 or 200, whatever it is. It's different when you got to order 20,000, right? You know, and put your hands on 20,000 of those chips that are hard to find. So it gets tough.
Next question. Which loaded slim sub has more output in the same situation?
Oh, that's a good question, Derek.
Comp RT, oh, Derek, I didn't even read the name, or L7T. Yeah.
So in the exact same situation, so we're going to assume, Derek knows what he's talking about, so we're talking same box design. I'm going to give it to the L7T, and it is strictly due to cone area for sure. The square shape will give it to you. Now, if we're talking the preloaded enclosures, Derek, because I did see your TRTP video, thanks for the shout out in that, by the way. So the TRTP box, let's say, versus the L7T box, well, the TRTP box has the passive, the bass reflex driver, that passive radiator in it. So it becomes a tighter race, we'll say, between those two. But if we're talking just raw driver versus raw driver, you know, in a random same box, then L7T.
You've got experience with the Comp RT, right?
I have played with a small, like an 8.
An 8-inch, okay. With the passive and the down?
Not with the passive yet.
Oh, just a raw driver then?
Just the raw drivers.
What did you put it in?
I put it in not a slim mount because I was just testing it, but just a regular old 8-inch enclosure. I think a 1.25 ported to like 35 hertz.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, it's pretty large. Yeah, so both the Comp RT and the L7T are small box drivers, and the L7T actually wasn't even designed like that from the get-go. We were trying to make a shallower mount square sub, is kind of what it is, and it just happened to work extremely well. Once the engineers were got 80-90% of the way done designing them, it quickly became apparent that these are going to work in pretty small enclosures. So to give you guys a heads up on that, let's talk like the 8-inch L7T. The minimum sealed box requirement is 0.2 cubic feet. The 10-inch is 0.4 and the 12 is 0.55 cubic feet. So in a very, very small box, you can have a decent amount of bass. Right. So we're talking under.
We know how us DIY guys are. We got this box. Yes. I'm not building another box. I've got this subwoofer and it's going in there.
Speaking of which, now you've played with a lot of Kicker subwoofers over the years. Do you have a favorite of our woofers?
Yes, I do. The first generation Kicker XPL.
Really?
The one with the ribbed cone, my very favorite
old school guy here,
subwoofer that Kicker ever made.
Now, what about that?
It's more of a pro style.
Okay.
It's low power, it's efficient. It just sounded very, very good. Okay. The second gen completely changed. I still love that, but for different reasons. Yeah. It completely changed it. It made it a more output focused driver.
Okay.
That first one was just pure, clean sound, and I think people beat on them a little too much, and they were like, you know what, we're not going to do this again.
Well, this is before my time, but what John Myers told me, thank you, John. Hopefully he's not watching because he should be sleeping right now. But the XPL was designed as a high sensitivity, modest power subwoofer, so you could get a ton of output with a very meager amplifier. And that was the whole idea. But like you said, people put gobs of power to it because it's Kicker, and they just overdrove them.
Yeah, and that's what happened.
What would you say a modern subwoofer in our current lineup that follows that same path?
Wow,
we were just talking about shallow mounts.
Well, the XPL were not shallow.
No, we were just talking about shallow mounts before that. I'm thinking the Comp VT.
Yeah.
Doesn't take a ton of power to make those things pretty darn loud.
That's true. Yeah.
So that's.
Yeah, that's because the VT, which was our first thin woofer.
Right.
The 12-inch downfire enclosure has a 1 watt, 1 meter sensitivity of 93 dB SPL.
That's good.
And that's in a tiny enclosure.
Yeah, very good.
We were, Ken and I were doing a training in Phoenix last summer, and we had to ship ourselves a subwoofer for this demonstration we were doing. And since we were using a Key 501 as the bass amp, okay, we got to get the most amount of power in a giant conference room. So we're going through the 1 watt, 1 meter SPL sensitivity, and it popped up like, oh my gosh, this is a great
Holy Grail.
Yes.
When it comes to low power in but high output Comp VT. So before, again, this question. Shogun, 9 hours. Well, he's got a long name there. How low in hertz do Kicker amps go down to and your enclosures are made perfect?
Oh, no.
Thank you, sir. I tried to adjust enclosure size and no need. It was a waste of time. So appreciate that shout out. But to answer your question, we
40, is it 40 hertz? I had to.
Took me a second to get it.
All right, give me that.
I had to.
That was
Sorry,
awesome.
I had
That was
to.
awesome.
I couldn't pass it.
Everything below that's a waste of time.
It's a waste of information.
Yeah.
So to answer your question directly, we do test all of our amplifiers down to 20 hertz. They're going to be flat frequency response down to 20 hertz. From there, we do have a brick wall filter, essentially, that filters out things that are, I mean, once you get down to even 17 or 18 hertz, you're going to have no output anymore. And that actually protects the amplifiers. It'd blow up if you had 5 hertz at 1800 watts or something like that. Yeah.
Smoke.
It doesn't like playing that all that well.
And actually, to go a little bit further in this, if you go to the CX line of amplifiers, there is a fixed 25 hertz, 24 dB per octave high-pass filter, subsonic filter. And what's perfect about that is that most of our tuned enclosures are right around 35 to 40 hertz. So 1 octave below the tuning of our loaded enclosures, we have a subsonic filter, which is protecting the
I feel
woofer.
like that's almost word for word the 40 hertz video. That's what he was talking about in that video.
Dude,
He was talking about our preloaded enclosures and where they're tuned. You like reminded him of the video. And
the funniest thing about the video is it is true. It's true to a point. Under 40 hertz is fun, but it's not playing music.
And on a motorcycle, but to take this even further, in our KXMA and KX amplifiers, the subsonic filter is adjustable down to 10 cycles, 10 hertz.
It is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you can adjust it. I do know for a fact there is a brick wall filter under 20 hertz on it.
Oh, still on
Yeah,
the...
I tested it myself on most of them.
I would trust you because you worked in R&D for a while.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Next
Anyway,
up.
yeah, I don't think you're going to be listening to too much 10 cycles. So.
Yeah.
Good question.
Let's
Thank you.
see what else we got there. What else? Looking through
Next
the
up.
feed. Can you adjust the output voltage? I assume he's talking about the key lock here. Output voltage, so you're not getting 10 volts for certain amps, and the answer is absolutely. So that's going to be this output gain control knob. I don't know if I can get in close. So you can see
tighten that
there's
shot?
2 pots here. This one right here is going to be input gain control. I'm going to set it here so I'm not touching it. Pull it in nice and tight. All right, so this pot right here is input gain control. That's what you're going to use depending on how much voltage you have coming in. So whether you're running 40 volt in or 500 millivolt in, this would be adjusted here. The output RCA voltage is with this pot here. So this it's actually labeled output. So you can turn this up or down depending on how much voltage you need out, depending on the particular amp you're using. If you're using a kicker amplifier, all of ours can accept at least 10 volts in, so it's not really an issue. But if you're using somebody else's amplifier that can only accept, let's say, 6 volts out, you would dial back the RCA voltage using that pot there.
So here's a question for you, Robert, and I don't mean to stump you, but something we talk a lot about in our trainings is if you have multiple gain stages, so you've got your source unit, and maybe you're going into a key lock,
Right.
and then from your key lock, maybe you're going into maybe a line driver or distribution or multiple amplifiers. Do you want maximum gain at the beginning or a maximum gain at the ending? So how would you set your architecture?
So I always go maximum gain at the beginning so that I'm not overdriving. And I always put a buffer, especially if it's me, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
If I'm doing it for somebody else, you can go all the way up and it's not going to be clipping that hard because I'm dialing you back. But I start from 1 and then work my way back in the chain to get where I want, making sure all the filters are flat, no EQing. Start that way, but if you're using bass boost, don't set your gain until you've used your bass boost.
Right.
And if you're going to be doing heavy EQing, like up and down, also you might want to set your gain after that, in my experience.
I tell people all the time is to make sure you use more volume knob on the head unit and less gain downstream.
Right.
So make sure you're at 3/4 volume and not trying to set gain at half volume or something like that. So that's when you run into not only overdriving your inputs, but noise issues as well, because you're amplifying a very weak signal. So keep that signal as strong as you can upstream, and you'll need as little gain as possible downstream.
Bobby Burkett. Hey, Bobby.
Hey, Bobby.
Thanks for the love. Kicker, how many amps can you run off a Key 204 as a line driver?
More than you'd fit in a car. And I'm not really bragging or anything. The input impedance on our amplifiers is extremely high. So, I mean, if you needed to run it into 20 amplifiers, it would not be an issue.
So the higher the input impedance in the amplifier, the less signal is required to get to the gain stage to make big, big music.
Right.
So the higher the impedance, except for, of course, infinite, because that means it's broken. But a high input impedance is very good. So as Ken said, you could run multiple kicker amplifiers from that Key 204, no problem at all.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, solid question.
Are you guys going to have an amp to power the Kicker Solo X?
I think Mr. Steve Herberty already blew the lid off that when he said, "Well, we're making a line of subwoofers. I guess we'd probably have the amps to go with them." So we'll just let that be the answer. We'll let that one fly. But I will say, tune in to Kicker Unmasked every week. So when we do release new product, this is going to be the first place you hear about it.
That's right. Product launch is right here.
Holy moly.
Oh.
Jeff, you want to read this one, Ken?
All right, I'll read it. Jeff, thanks for the paragraph. I'm planning to upgrade the stereo of my 2020 Honda CR-V. Components in the doors will run off a Key 200.4 in bi-amp mode. Lots of key discussion tonight.
Great.
Holy cow.
Great.
Coaxial speakers in the rear doors will run off a factory radio. Sub in the hatch will run off a Key 501. Will I need a key lock in front of either the 204 or the 501 to remove the crappy factory EQ and restore bass, or will the amps take care of that? Secondary question, any plans to release a higher powered key amp, maybe a 250.4 or a 300.4? Hint. So first question first, we've actually talked quite a bit about that already, is running a key lock in front of the Key 200.4. And the answer is, it will help most of the time. So I would suggest it, yes. And the key lock is 2 channels, so you'd run 2 of them into a Key 200.4. The Key 200.4 in itself can get you a good chunk of the way there, but it really depends on what vehicle we're talking about. So the Honda CR-V, that one I don't think has all-pass filters in it. I can't recall right off the top of my head. So if, for example, you had a highly elaborate factory system that had all-pass filters, factory time correction, things like that, you're definitely going to want to use a Kicker key lock. If by chance it's flat 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz with no time correction or anything from the factory, you didn't have to use the Kicker key lock. So that would be the answer to that. Almost all head units are going to have bass roll-off, though. So when we talk rolling into the Key 500.1, it will correct for a lot of that bass roll-off. So kind of same answer there. What else we have? Secondary question, any plans to release a higher-powered key amplifier? So the key technology will roll into some other products going forward. Same answer regarding tune in to Kicker Unmasked, and this will be the first place you hear about it. Guys, I know you guys are dying for new product from Kicker.
Yeah.
We are too.
Yes.
And I will say that our engineers, even though they couldn't get parts, they have not sat idle. So we are working on lots of new things, and when the system unclogs, it's going to pour.
So we're waiting for the Key family to expand.
You guys are going to be drowning in new product, when supply permits.
I want more channel than more channels. Same, I don't care, 50 powers. I've used this key, so I can tell you 50 watts on that key is pretty impressive.
Yes.
Give me like 6 or 8 channels. I want more channels.
Yeah, that's a good one right there, Bill, or whoever just clicked on that one. 2-track. Go ahead and throw that one up if you would. So he is asking, in future key products, will you be able to manually tinker with the tune after it's set from the program? So yes and no. We will have some tinkering DSP product coming in the future as far as the true key algorithm type setup. There's a lot of people who love the one-button setup. You set it and forget it. And it becomes in because you don't have to be an expert installer. You don't have to spend a lot of time doing it. Even folks that know how to tune a vehicle properly, it takes them, let's say, even if you're good at it, probably an hour. And that's a pretty quick tune. A solid tune you can get done in an hour. Not everybody wants to spend that much time tuning a vehicle. Installing, sure, but when it gets to the tuning, I want to listen and enjoy already.
Yes.
So my answer to your question is, in the Key 200.4 or whatever it evolves to in the future, it will probably still continue to be a set it and forget it kind of one-button setup. But yes, we absolutely will have key technology trickle into some other things, and you'll be able to play around with some DSP functions.
I'm with 2-track on this. I love the factory, but there's things I would like to change just a little bit. And I do it with Dean's hacks. I do the bass minus or plus. Left
Sure,
right
exactly.
there.
You can keep that in mind. Exactly like you're saying, you can play with the factory EQ. After you've run the setup, it's your car. If you need it, if you like, I don't like the way that it's. I need more treble or something. Then just boost up the treble or cut the bass or whatever it needs to be. We say cut rather than boost, but still, it's if you're going to put it on +1, I doubt you're going to break anything. So don't worry about it.
Question for Robert. So you've tuned cars before manually, the old-fashioned way. If you had a car that was auto-tuned by the key, how much better could you make it manually tuning it if it was available?
It's a matter of time.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
how
yeah,
long
like I
would it
said.
take me to do that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I
Like I said,
could do
minimum an hour.
Right.
And that'd be
yeah. I think the key gets you like 90% of the way there.
Yeah.
So you're getting 90% of the result, which is probably better than most people's 90% that they can do.
I'd argue it's actually more like 95. It's 90 plus. Even if you're a good tuned person, it's a solid piece.
And even I know what I want to hear, but I can't always make it sound the way I want to hear it. Tuning's like it's an art more than a
it
pure
is, and everybody's
science.
got their own opinions on
Right.
what sounds best, et cetera, et cetera. So, it's our particular tune that we've put in there, might not be great for everybody. But again, we've been talking about the dip switches on the in panel. There is one labeled Kicker EQ. So if you do not like the Kicker EQ in there, you can flip that dip switch to defeat, and you'll be left with a flat sound. So if you run the key setup, you don't like the EQ curve for whatever reason, flip that dip switch, see what you think.
And there is a kicker sound.
Yes, there is.
If you listen, it goes from the headphones to the EQ on the 204.
Yeah.
It is a kicker sound.
Sure.
Yes. In my wife's car, it's a Mazda 3, 2009 Mazda 3. We went from a Q-Class 5-channel amp with QS components in the front and then single sub. Took that out, put in a key, 200.4, ran the auto setup, and I was shocked at how good it sounded. Going from a properly tuned Q-Class to a key, I'm like, oh my God, this is game changer right here.
Exactly.
Because it took one button.
It's the perfect wife amp because you don't have to. Now you're not tech support. Everything's going to work, and you're not going to get in trouble. Because I've done this before. I've had this set up, and my wife's like, "Oh, what's doing this and doing that?" And you know what? I'll put the key in there. It'll do its thing, and I don't have to worry about it.
Less parts.
If you have a problem, guess who they're calling? If we have a problem, she's calling tech support.
Calling us.
Yeah.
Ronnie wants to know how to split signal between 2 amps with the LOC. So you can do it a couple of ways. If you're running, like a Kissel, you would just be soldering in, splitting off the wires in a traditional sense. But you can use RCA Y cables. You don't have to worry about it. And no, it does not divide voltage in half. That's a common thought for whatever reason. So if I got 4-volt RCAs and I Y them off, does that mean 2 volt and 2 volt? It doesn't. Still got 4 volt on both. So simple Y cables would certainly work for that.
Yeah, it just dissipates over time. Like if you done a bunch of
If you had a whole bunch, far more than 2, then you would have more of an issue.
10 volts.
Yeah, you'd have like 3.998 volts or something. So yeah, it's still fine. Can it connect tweeters and coaxial in one output with the key 200.4? Let me think about this. So he's saying wire a coax with a tweeter and a tweeter?
And add a separate set of tweeters on top of that.
So yes and no. So the key 200.4, the thing that makes it special is DSP. It has time correction and things like that built into it. So if you're going to mount the coax, let's say in the traditional door panel down low by your knee, and the tweeter virtually anywhere else, the time correction is going to be all screwed up because it'll have that same value to those 2 speakers because they're wired together, of course. So you wouldn't want to do that. But that even aside, it would literally play audio, yes.
You know what he could do, though? If I were in this scenario, I would run the Key 204 in biamp mode, and I would, because the Key 204 is going to put a low-pass filter on the door coax speakers, basically eliminating that tweeter, and then you're going to have your tweeter up top.
Sure, I assume because he's trying to connect maybe 8 or 10 speakers to one amplifier.
Yeah.
And on that note, even though it does reduce let's say the impedance from a 4 ohm impedance to a 2 ohm impedance, wiring those 2 speakers together, you do not get any more power out of the key amplifier at that 2 ohm load. So there's really no benefit in doing it other than strictly having audio out of those 2 speakers.
And I've run a three-way front stage biamp setup with a kicker key. The tweeter and their mid were close together with a passive.
Okay.
Up in the dash in a Hyundai Sonata 2013.
Okay.
And so that was the front channels, and then the rear was the doors.
Perfect.
And it worked pretty well like that.
We recommend a similar setup for those of you that know the Snowman pods, the kicker Snowman pods, the KMT
2504.
2504.
I'm looking around for them right now.
Yeah.
KMST, is that what it is? Snowman pods.
Yeah.
The 2.5 inch with the 1 inch tweeter attached together and the articulating ball and socket pod that you can put up on the A-pillar. Run those on the 2 front channels of the key amplifier, and then those door woofers, the front door woofers on the 2 rear channels of the key amplifier in biamp mode, and that's how you get that 3-way setup.
Yep.
You would use the passive crossovers that come with the KSMT. That's KSMT. Tim nailed it.
John Myers, Lake Havasu.
What up,
Hey,
John?
John.
What's up?
Hello.
Thanks for tuning in, bud.
What were you going to say? Go ahead.
And I was going to say, I think I've given you guys sufficient crap over the model number on that.
The model number. So we've actually had grief over our model numbers not too long ago, Aaron. You remember this maybe month and a half ago?
Yes, we did.
One of our distributors was ragging on us about that.
Yeah,
all right,
so nothing we can do about that.
Yeah, if anybody above our head at Kicker is watching this right now.
Right.
How could you use a Kicker key for a three-way active system? You just talked about it. Go ahead and say that again.
So,
please.
Yeah, you would use a passive between the mid-range and the tweeter, similar positions.
So they have to be right next to each other.
Exactly.
So that's not really a three-way active system per se, but it is in that there's three speakers. Yeah.
Right. So it's not a true three-way. It's kind of
quasi three-way.
Like using a coax, up here and just a defined pure mid bass in the
right.
Yep.
So you'd have passive crossover between the, that upper mid-range, maybe it's a 3-inch and the tweeter itself.
Right.
And then you'd have, the rear channels would power that 6.5, 6x9, whatever else is in the front door. So it's a quasi three-way active, but it is possible to power 6 speakers off the Kicker key using that method. And we've done that. Actually, we got that in the Fiat.
Yes.
Our little blue Fiat that you guys have seen a few times rolling around here. It's been upgraded. That's how it's hooked up.
Thank you, SJC. Appreciate the question. Bill, 2 L7 Q Series 15s with a CXA 1800 on each sub. Wow.
That's a lot of power.
That is awesome.
Doing a blow-through. All right.
Blow-through from a bed into a kind of a Gladiator. That's the Jeep pickup.
Gladiator, yeah.
Approximately what size box would you recommend if I do plexiglass on the rear of the box, 1 inch thick, enough?
So in terms of plexi thickness, it's going to depend on how big that rear sheet is. Obviously the larger it is, the thicker it's going to need to be. But in terms of size, or were we assuming vented enclosure? You didn't say vented or sealed.
Blow through, so he's probably going to
be like a
I don't think
order.
anybody's running sealed in big systems anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Go ahead, Kenneth. I was going to pull up.
You're going to what?
I was going to pull up box building because we have.
So first off, that's a good time to pitch the Kicker U app, guys.
Yes.
Download the Kicker U app.
Yes.
Plug all that in there.
Hey, Ernie, can you put up my laptop?
But I'm going to say minimum 5 cubes. Minimum 5 cubes for the pair of them.
So right here, if you download the Kicker U app for Android or iOS, it will walk you through 3 different enclosures. So you'll do minimum recommended sealed, maximum recommended sealed, minimum recommended vented, maximum recommended vented. So actually 4 different enclosures sizes. So the app can get you 95% of the way. Or if you want to send an email to support@kicker.com, our guys can actually help you design that enclosure perfectly. Jeremy Brown, who's been on the show before, he is a box master from days gone by, and he can help you design a wicked enclosure for that blow through.
Yeah,
and Go ahead.
I would almost say, if you haven't bought the Qs, I would look at L7Ss.
I saw it debated on there not too long ago.
Yeah.
People were saying, I like the S, and other people, I like the Q. So
I
different
think that,
strokes for different folks,
like
I
the
guess,
S
right?
maybe has like a little bit more, if you're just going for bass, I would say like if you're going for sound quality, I don't know if you are with 3,600 watts, but if you're just going for sound quality cues, but I would say if you just want to like beat on them, the S's seem to take it pretty well.
It's funny you say this because now we do A/B listening in the room. You've been in our listening lab. And we've done A/B listening with S and Q series. And like you just said, for my ear, the Q series is smoother and a little bit more balanced in the real bottom end, where the S series has a bit more of a bump in the upper end of the sub bass. So yes, what you said, I would totally agree with that.
And they take abuse.
They take abuse.
Yeah. All of them take abuse. But
yes, sir.
Which page on our Kicker website was it that had that link on it? You showed the link.
The link for the Kicker U. So you can.
It's kicker.com/how to build a subwoofer box. So right up here at the top, I'll highlight it. Gotcha. Right there. That's how you get there.
You can find that right through the Apple or Google Play Store.
Yeah, that's probably easier.
I would just type in Kicker. Kicker U is there. If you type in Kicker, the only thing that come up is that and our Bullfrog app, I think. So
there's a Connect app too for the
Bullfrog.
No, and the other one for the amphitheater. Yeah,
Oh, wow, that's old school.
Okay,
It's still there? Yeah. Okay,
But
next
still,
question.
you'll be able to see Kicker U. Yeah, what else we got up there, Bill? Or Sandy, or who was ever running the questions back there?
I have 4 12Q class, 2 Hyphonics, 3,000 watts each. Wow. And the speakers are too much for those 2 amps. What do you guys recommend I do?
So I assume he's saying the subwoofers are too much for those amps?
Maybe.
So the amplifier, I assume from that, he's saying that it doesn't actually put out the rated power.
Okay, you know much about
the
those
subwoofers
amps?
want more.
Well,
Well,
I mean,
Hyphonics makes a lot of them. The point is
Yeah.
it sounds like he's asking the subwoofers want more power. So put more power on them. Use
CX 1800.
Yeah, right now CXA 1800.1 is probably the easiest amplifier for you to get your hands on.
Two of them.
Yeah,
Two
'cause
of them.
He's
Yeah.
got 2.
Yeah,
So
2 of them.
Two.
So if you, well, he's got 412s.
But he's got 2 Hyphonics.
Yeah, so
3,000.
minimum two CXA 1800.1s, and they do same power into a 1 ohm or 2 ohm load. So regardless of which version
Yes.
of those subwoofers
Yeah.
you got, that would be the answer for it. If you got some time to wait, then you could wait a while, and maybe we'll have something else for you.
Right.
Yeah, when I say a while,
Yeah.
it could be tomorrow, it could be a while, and to be
Wow.
honest, I couldn't tell you honestly either.
Now, have you done an 1800 one in your show?
I have not.
You haven't
no.
done one yet?
No, I haven't. I have played with one.
Okay.
I just haven't dynoed one.
Yeah.
They're brutes.
Yeah.
They're brutes.
Yeah, you know, when we first brought out the, you probably can't see it, the Quadzilla.
Yeah, it's down
the
there. It's
quad
right
box.
by your left elbow.
We were talking about what amplifiers to power with, and of course, 2 1200.1s would work perfectly. But why not go with 2 1800 ones? You know,
Sure.
why not? So yeah, have at
Two
it.
1800 CXA 1800.1s. That's
There's
probably
your
what I'd
answer.
recommend.
And they're a budget. They're the budget level.
Yes.
And
sir.
they are absolutely brutes.
Real
no
power.
doubt about it. Yeah.
Yeah, real power. Now, do you need real batteries and alternators?
Absolutely.
So that's actually probably the most common issue we have, folks that run the CXA 1800.1. When you start getting to that power level, most any factory electrical system is not going to be able to handle it. So under voltage protection in the CXA 1800.1, I would argue, is probably the most common issue we have with those, because people are running on factory alternators, factory battery, and it's too much. I got away with it when I had the 800.1, but now that I upgraded to something larger, now I have issues, and I kind of blame it on the amplifier because it's in protection all the time. And so that's usually what I see most common issue is weak electrical system. Time to upgrade high output alternator and maybe a couple batteries.
Yeah. Minimum couple batteries.
Yeah. Maybe
a
one
big
battery
3
from
kit.
this guy with the
A big 3
cells
kit,
he's
you know.
talking about.
Yeah, big 3.
Big 3 kit.
Oh
there you
yeah.
go.
Speaking of which, aren't you pimping some kits now?
Oh yeah, man. I'm doing a little wire kits, a little big 3 stuff
Yeah.
here and there. We're
Now,
we're small time.
Crimping ain't easy.
Crimping ain't easy. Everybody knows that. So you can get one of these shirts. HiFiVega.com.
They know what it is. They know the deal.
So now, Big 3, you highly recommend using your kit, of course. I mean, that's why you came out with it. So you must have seen like a strong need for these kits in order to produce them yourself.
Well, I felt like it was a market that I could jump into, something I know about,
Sure.
And I would recommend you a Big 3, whether you buy it from me or you buy it from anybody, if you're going to be running a lot of power. Of course, if you're running 1,000 watts, it's not necessary. If you're running 1,800 watts, get the battery. Like I would say 1,500 watts. At the minimum, I would do a Big 3 kit.
Yeah.
And it's not so much, people think it's the power wire. It's not the power. You need your ground situation more than just the power, because the power is not going to help you as much on a stock alternator. It's much more important when you get a 250 amp alternator to have the bigger power wire. The 6 gauge factory cable is not going to cut it.
Sure.
But the ground plane in your system, that's the most. As many grounds as you can. And if you have a unibody, sometimes you just want to run that wire all the way back up to the battery.
Aluminum body.
Yeah.
Yeah, pickup trucks.
aluminum,
Yeah.
geez.
New Ford pickups are like that, etc. So yeah, you got a whole lot of wiring kits, and I think you were telling us the things you like to collect when it comes to car audio stuff.
Yeah.
Like Big D's old school amplifiers. What do you like to collect?
I like accessories, man. I don't know what it is.
So you're the wire guy, you collect accessories.
And that's kind of how I got into it, because I liked kicker stuff. I like Phoenix Gold stuff back in the day. I like
beautiful.
esoteric,
Yeah.
street wires, even the Gold Quest. Some of the Gold's TIFF was like top of the line. When you seen the TIFF stuff, and I've had a bunch of their stuff, and it's just gotten lost over moves. But
No.
But yeah, I love all that stuff. It's like jewelry.
What
to me.
specifically on accessories, though? I mean, like accessories is a large category. Is there
Right.
something in particular? Like I collect RCA cables, or you collect whatever.
Well, I do like I like a good RCA cable, even though it doesn't always work for an amp.
Per the RCA cables.
Like the nice esoteric A7 coaxial cables.
So Bart's watching this right now.
right.
Bart used to work with esoteric.
And I have a bunch of them. They're not always great in a car.
Okay.
On a depends on what amp you're running, if they have differential input or not.
Exactly. So that's a whole other thing
Yeah.
to talk about.
Yeah.
Coaxial versus twisted pair RCAs, differential inputs, single-ended inputs.
And you can't always. They're pretty, but sometimes you just need a cheap twisted pair.
You need twisted pair
to make it sound.
So RCA cables is what you tend to.
So RCA cables, I like fuse blocks. I like fuse holders. I like
distribution blocks and fuse blocks.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like the DD1, not the DD1, the DD10. I like the DD1 as well, but the DD10 Phoenix Gold, which was like a delay timer. So it had like I think 20 fuses in it.
Wow.
And you could trigger them with relays.
Fun.
Shout out to Spark Innovations, who also does stuff like this. It's very cool. Love that stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
More questions. We only got 15 minutes left. Holy cow. Let's get a couple more questions. So, Chuck, how can someone tell if their factory stereo has all-pass filters?
So, he didn't say necessarily all-pass filters. So we're going to start with others first. So we're talking basic crossovers: high-pass filter, low-pass filter. You're going to need an RTA. So do not use the old ear meter and just put your ear up to the speaker. I hear bass, let's plug it on in, because you might hear 80 hertz, but are you going to hear 40 hertz in there? So an RTA, and you can make one yourself very inexpensively using a walkthrough we have on our website. If you go to the top tab at kicker.com, you'll see a tab that's support, and you'll scroll down to Tech Papers, I believe it's called. Aaron, is that right? Tech Papers?
Yeah.
And then there is a link. Ernie, if you can pull up Aaron's laptop there, there's a link that says, I think it's just how to build your own RTA. Building a simple RTA, there we go. Simple RTA setup for testing signals. So essentially, you're electrically looking at the signal, not acoustically. You're not going to be using a microphone. You're going to be stabbing into those factory wires, using some test probes, and then running that to an iPad, a cell phone, or anything, and then using an RTA app. So in actual hardware, you've probably got retail price point. You've probably got maybe $60 worth of product if you're paying full retail for it. And then the app is anywhere between free and about $5. So still not a huge investment to have an RTA at your disposal to be able to electrically see what signal is present. You'll be able to see if it's, you've stabbed into tweeter wires or mid-range speaker wires, or if there is bass roll-off. So keep in mind, if you have volume 10 and it looks relatively flat, turn the volume on the head unit up to 30 and see if it starts tapering off the bass. So you can look at that via that RTA. If we're talking all-pass filters, it actually clicks that difficulty level up a notch, and you need you need a 2-channel RTA, and then you're going to sum them together. So you can actually still do that with. Actually, I don't think that walkthrough actually spells out how to do it, but it's pretty similar in that instead of combining left and right channels together into one pair of test leads, you would have separate left and separate right channels, and you would stab into, let's say, the passenger and driver front door woofers, and then put one out of phase with it and see if you see that all-pass filter in the result, that huge cutout, that huge carve-out from the all-pass filter in the result.
Yeah,
wow. And I have to shout out my guys, Dean and Fernando, iRTA. They have an electrical RTA.
Really?
$250.
Yeah, they have a nice one also.
iRTA.
Sure.
So they have it already built.
I wish the screen was a little larger. And
it's
maybe
2-channel, I believe, as well. So
there it is.
Yeah.
iRTA.
Man, he said shout out. It was almost word for word what you just said.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, that's a very cool piece also, so you can certainly use that. The screen's a little small. That's the only thing that bugs me.
Yeah.
But still totally doable.
Next question. Next question.
Click on something. Higher low level input better into the key 200.4. So more signal voltage in is always going to be beneficial. So we talked about that half hour ago, whatever. We talked about higher signal voltage in, less gain, and that's what you're going for here. So if you can run high level in at any point, highly recommend it. So we have differential inputs, high voltage inputs on all of our stuff. Run high level in, you can have the gain down much, much lower. You have a less chance of increasing those induced noises, engine whine or hisses, things like that. You'll have a less chance of that being in the end result. You have a strong signal in, less gain.
Especially if you're using like a cheap head unit.
Yes.
Just use the speaker levels in. I reviewed one that was a really decent cheap head unit, had less than 1 volt at full volume.
Wow.
So On that note, a lot of manufacturers, cheap or not cheap, use a resistor ladder on those preouts. They're no longer actually preamp outputs anymore. There are the simple amplified outputs, high-level outputs, put through a resistor ladder and into an RCA connection. So they're literally the exact same audio signal, just buffered down. So you're knocking the signal down from, let's say, 10 or 12 volts down to 4 volts, just so you can use more gain at the amplifier to boost it back up.
And you're unbalancing it, so now you're picking up noise.
Exactly. So we talked a little bit. Well, we haven't talked about differential inputs too much this episode. I'm sure we've covered that in another Unmasked. But yeah, you're using differential inputs, like you said, those balanced inputs. Rocking and rolling. Use high level whenever you can.
Yeah, I agree. If the amp can take it, it's worth it.
For sure.
That's right. Any experience on running a KLOC on a Kia Sorento 2021 non-Bose? I'm not sure if that's the way to go to improve sound, or on the other hand, use an audio control DD61 to EQ the OEM radio. This is a philosophy difference here, because the KLOC will de-equalize the signal coming from the factory radio. So it's going to take whatever Kia has done to the audio chain and neutralize it so it's back to zero, take away any time correction, take away any all-pass filters they may put in. So now you've got a clean, pristine signal coming out of the KLOC going into your amplifiers. So now if you want to EQ it, like if you're using a Q class or another amplifier that has built-in equalization, now you can EQ it to your liking without having to de-EQ it because the KLOC's done it for you.
Sure, and it does time correction all-pass filters, which you said. So competition can't correct for the all-pass filter, especially in an auto setup. It took me 3 minutes to do type situation.
Yeah.
So I know I'm biased. I work for Kicker. But the Kicker key lock is a pretty amazing piece for what it can do.
Well, I'm on the Kicker show, and I will say that I would rather have a clean signal to start with, because if you're EQing out, now you've lost the range of where you can go from there.
Good point.
So if you had to boost up or go down to EQ it, you've kind of lost a little bit there.
That's a good point, because if that EQ signal is already hot, you've only got so much dynamic range to work with. But if you go back to zero, relatively speaking, now you've got more dynamic range to work with. That's a great point. Next question. What's it like having the best daughter ever?
It's not bad. It's not bad.
It's not
I
bad.
got 2 good ones and a third one coming on the way. Nice. No, my wife's not pregnant. I'm talking about the third one backstage when he marries in.
I thought you were announcing the...
No. We couldn't survive another one.
Wow. Yeah, well, I've got one, and that is enough, man. They're expensive, and they take a lot of energy.
Yeah. What else
Next
you got?
question. You want to read this one?
Yeah.
Hey, I've already said mine. What's your favorite Kicker subs of all times?
I feel like I've answered this in another episode. I think if I didn't give the same answer, I'm giving it to you now. It's going to be the L7T.
L7T.
Yeah, shallow mount L7, because it's usability. Simply that's really all it boils down to, is its usability. I find that it's easy to fit in a lot of vehicles. Sounds great. What's not to love?
QB8.
Oh, dude, a good pull.
The QB8.
That thing is...
A lot of people like it. I'm sticking with L7T, but yeah, QB8's cool.
It's the amount of output and the depth of output from a single 8 is unbelievable.
It's like when you show somebody that, and they're like, whoa. I always love that. Like, it's just a small driver, and you're like, what in the world, when they go back there and see it?
Lumen enclosure. And it looks high-end, and
it's beautiful.
Sounds high-end. It's a great piece.
We debuted it at CES many years ago now, and we had a Ford Mustang in our booth, and we had one QB8 running off the 5th channel of a Q-Class 5-channel amp, 500 watts RMS, and we would sit people in there, do the full demonstration, and then say, okay, what sub did you guess we're using? 12-inch woofer was the most common thought.
112?
A single 12. And it was a single 8, because it's amazing output.
You know what else I like is the HS10.
Yeah.
And again, it's the same idea. Clearly, you can tell I was an installer. I had to put a lot of these subs in cars. So the HS10 fits under a front seat and gives you quite a bit of bass for I'm not using that space for anything else. So that's a cool little piece. So I'm a utility guy. I like the usability of those products. So I'm a shallow.
I like Cassie's question there, but what is Sandy's favorite Kicker product?
Oh, yeah.
Sandy will have to answer there in the chat. I don't think we have her mic'd up. What's Sandy's favorite Kicker
Sandy's
product?
favorite.
Yeah.
All right, next question. We're running low on time.
There we go.
Should the RCA and power wire be run on separate sides?
The classic debate. What do you guys say about that?
Well, I don't know if it's ever been so much of a debate, because there's no there's science behind it that when you run heavy current through a wire, that you have EMI that comes from it. So can that be induced to low voltage RCAs? Yeah, absolutely it can. So there are ways to help prevent that. We've already talked about running differential signals, twisted pair with high voltage, and then if you have differential inputs into your amplifier, which all kicker amplifiers are, you'll have less of an issue with that. However, it's good to kind of prevent the source of noise in the first place. So there's never a reason not to.
I always do it too. I never knew if I figured they're good enough today
it
that
used
it
to be
probably
a huge
wouldn't.
problem back in the day.
Yeah. So
Technology's
now I just
evolved.
do it because it's
Good habits.
like I'm already there, and
Yeah.
I don't. Once you get old, you just do things the way you've always done.
Out of
it.
habit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, best practice. And in fact, in the old days, we had a lot of noise problems because of a lack of differential inputs.
Right.
And one of the solutions was to run a ground wire all the way back to the battery as well. So you had clean power, clean ground all the way back to the battery, helping to eliminate noise problems.
Did you guys? I got a question for you. Have you guys ever had to Have you ever had to ground your RCAs on the back of a head unit? How often?
You're talking about the Pioneer head unit?
The Pico fuse. The Pico fuse.
Pico fuse, yeah.
I throw the damn head unit out and get something else. Is what I do.
Oh, dude, I've had one. I've had several with wire wrapped all around it.
Yeah. That's age old.
At that point, I'd be using high-level N and not have to worry about any of that.
Exactly.
Let's take one more question.
Oh,
'cause
Sandy says her favorite is the amphitheater, by the way. Sandy's favorite product is the kicker amphitheater.
Oh.
All right, Jesse, you got the final question of the evening. Any plans for non-enclosed marine coax speakers that use a horn tweeter?
We've actually, we've already unveiled it, but do we talk about it on Unmasked? Because we unveiled it to Canada. We got the okay to talk about this.
So
what are we going to do about this? So we just say yes?
Yes. Go ahead,
So it's
Ken.
going to be the KMXL lineup of speakers. They're going to come in a 6.5 inch, an 8 inch, and a 6 by 9 inch size. They're going to be mainly marine and power sports geared. So they are going to have obviously a 6.5 inch or 6 by 9 inch mid-range, and then a horn tweeter that uses the Tractrix formula to make that horn not only incredibly loud, but sound fantastic as well. And of course, I mean, overall, they are extremely high output, extremely high power handling. They use neodymium motors. They're a beast. So take a look at those.
Yeah,
KMXL.
and now that Ken said it, I can say that I've seen them. So I have seen them. They're super
I hope I didn't
dope.
blow the roof off.
They're super dope.
We've talked about them before, and then check out KMXL. It's public knowledge. I don't think it's on our website just yet.
No, it's not shipping yet. So
not shipping yet, but
Yes.
soon. I think we had actual production samples here not too long ago.
This is why you watch to the very end of Unmasked. Because you breaking news.
Breaking news. KMXL. Yep. And for you guys that ride Harleys, there's a special horn in the 6.5 inch, so you can fit those behind the front fairings and the bat wings of the Harleys, made specifically for that application. So check that out.
So apparently Sandy is the best kicker employee ever.
That's not a question. Get out of here.
Sandy!
We appreciate her help. We definitely appreciate her help.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us here tonight, 7:30 every Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it's time to give away some stuff.
Oh, we got to give stuff away. Oh,
he was,
sorry. Okay.
Get this guy off the show. Who is this guy?
I'm trying to hang up.
Golly.
I'm ready for bed. All right, so who is our third place winner tonight?
What are they winning?
They are winning. Jared W.
Colorado. Your home state.
Colorado. Jared, I'm from Fort Collins. Woohoo! So Jared is going home. He's already home.
Yeah.
Jared is getting a
leaving.
set of EB400 in-ear, a koozie, and a T-shirt. Be sure to contact us with your T-shirt size and shipping address. Jared, way to go. Who's our second place winner? Number 2, Rodney M. from Indiana. Rodney. Hey, Rodney, were you at Indy Knowledge Fest with us hanging out? That was a great show. You win the Tabor 2's koozie and a T-shirt. And the number 1 winner tonight, Matt C. from Missouri. Matt C. from Missouri.
John
you are
was
the
just
number
in
1.
Missouri.
You get the noise-canceling headphones, a koozie, and a T-shirt.
He gets one more thing.
What?
I'm sending a Crimpin' Ain't Easy shirt.
You get a Crimpin' Ain't Easy T-shirt.
Congrats.
Hey, show us the back. Show
right,
us the back real quick. What we got in the back there?
There you go.
Wire. And car audio
Robert
for
Hi-Fi
enthusiasts.
Vega wires.
There you are.
Yeah, yes, sir.
So you're going to get one of those
You won
too.
those shirts too. One of those shirts also.
All right,
Rigged or not.
winners. Thank you. Give us your information so we can get you your prizes.
Appreciate it, Baba.
Rigged or not, thanks.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Rigged? What are we talking about, rigged?
Guys,
right.
you need to send us in your show ideas too. If there's a particular topic that you guys want us to cover, we talked about differential inputs and single-end inputs, twisted pair RCAs, single coaxial style RCAs. I mean, we can make a whole show out of that.
Yes.
Topics like that. If there's something you're thinking of that, man, I really wish they would go in deep on X, Y, or Z, please hit us up. You know, you're welcome to either throw it in the chat. You can email us at training@kicker.com, and then we'll get it, whatever it happens to be. We're always looking for show ideas. So.
And guests you'd like to see too. It's great to have guests in the studio.
Sure.
Just send every request more High Five Vega.
Yeah. If you want him to just take over the show, let us know.
We'll just get off the set.
Ernie, he's your new host.
Oh, but if you've seen Thursdays, you don't want that to go. You don't want that to happen.
Mr. Ruby wouldn't approve of that?
No.
Okay. Well, maybe not then.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate you being here every Tuesday night, 7:30 Central Time. Join us at UnMasked Studios. Thank you, Mr. Hi Fi Vega.
Thanks for having me,
Great
as
meeting you
always.
tonight.
Yes, sir.
And with that, let's go home.